How to Win Friends and Influence People. We're simply in the section that says this: how to win people to your way of thinking, on the first principle, which is this: how to get the best of an argument, avoid it. He shares an experience about a businessman who was being, his taxes were being looked at by the tax inspector, and the tax inspector and him were arguing over a bad investment that the businessman felt like should not be taxed, of about $9,000. They argued back and forth, both making their points, and finally the businessman realized, I'm not going to win this argument. So he says, I simply dropped it. And I said to him, he says, I've always been something of a nut when it comes to taxes. I love studying them. I try to do the best that I can. And he says, but you've studied it from the front lines. I've only read in books. And he says, I simply meant what I told him. He says, I really did enjoy learning about taxes. And so he began to tell me stories of people that tried to cover up their taxes and the different things. And he said, before it was over, he says, we'd become good friends. He'd shared with me his experiences. He'd shared with me about his family. And at the end, he said, he says, let me look at this over. And he says, I'll get back with you in a few days. Well, you guessed it. In a few days, he dropped the case. Why? Because he had given him a feeling of importance by not arguing with him, but saying he was the authority. That's all the gentleman wanted. Buddha made this interesting observation. He says, hatred is never ended by hatred, but by love. My friends, when you and I choose to agree with people, especially when you're in a spot where you're not going to make the difference the other way, when a person has influence and you agree with them, all they want is that feeling of importance, and things may go your way.